And this is Street News Now, SNN. Five Guys and You catches every Thursday at 9 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. 9 p.m. Eastern, and then you have 8 p.m. Central, and then you have 6 p.m. on the West Coast. That's how you do it. Hello, my name is Chris Bates, the Boomshockalaka. Our fearless leader, Lee Michaels, is still out. And so when he returns, hopefully it's next week. I know it's going to be this week, but we'll hold it down for him as always do. Let me bring in the people who make this happen. Of course, you have the round table of the round heads. It's like five ball guys and you. It's usually five of us, but it's four right now. As we bring to you Street News Now. First of all, we have Dr. Ron Ford, we have Professor Reggie Miles, and Francisco Acosta, also known as the Chocolate Yoda. Gentlemen, what's up? How you doing?
Great.
Oh, man. Another day in paradise. All good.
Yeah.
Nice.
Great.
Let's not waste any time. Dr. Ron, what's on the docket for the day, sir?
Man, I am going to be talking about the men in blue that gave testimony on this week about January 6th.
What happened on January 6th?
They had an unauthorized visitation in the Capitol.
Nah, you got that wrong. I've heard Republicans talk about that. That didn't happen. But anyway, we'll get to it later.
We'll get into that. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Rap bastard. All right then, Francisco, what's on your plate, sir?
I might start touching on the fringes of the austerity concept, but I might not because there's a lot to cover, and I don't know if my thoughts are organized. So we'll see what happens.
Okay, we're gonna make something happen. Absolutely. I like that topic, man. We should bring it up. And of course, now even though we already know the answer when we go to Professor, we just do it because it's out of respect. We'll go to Dr. Ron for his thing and for Francisco for his thing. So, Professor Reggie Miles, what's on your mind and what's on the docket for what you're about to talk about?
Pootie tang!
Oh my goodness.
Why they tie on the name on my damn
Many times tainted.
Oh man.
Lay me down.
You know, one day we suggest this. We should do like movie quotes and just throw it out there and see people would guess who, where the movie comes from. That'll be cool. I like that idea. Y'all ain't right, but I like Pootie Tang was hilarious, especially that belt. Exactly, get that whiplash belt. Right. Good stuff, man. So on my docket, we're going to talk about the following. The CDC recommended that fully vaccinated people begin to wear masks indoors again. And just before we hit, there was a press conference with President Biden talking about that as well. How it could be confusing getting information. That'll be on my plate. So We're going to cover the bases. Let's begin with Dr. Ron. Dr. Ron, the floor is yours, so go right ahead.
Okay. For those that have followed the mainstream media on this week, we had the, I'm going to say fortunate, because these gentlemen are still alive to tell their story. Fortunate pleasure of listening to the Capitol Police officers to testify to the committee on this week about the riot that took place on January 6th. And, many of these officers were very emotional with their testimony. They were very direct. They were very, wanting to get people to understand that this was not a pleasurable event, that these men are still suffering consequences. There were, some of the testimonies from officer, one of the officers, he was very passionate. They described it, very passionate, testified Tuesday that he faced racist epithets, the likes of which he had never heard while serving in uniform. You hear that guy, this N-word voted for Joe Biden. A woman in pink mega shirt yelled towards Capitol Police PFC Harry Dunn. He recounted after Dunn said he voted for President Biden. And, these people were so vicious and irate in their attacks against the officers. Man, the testimonies, if you have not heard any of the testimonies, I encourage you to go read them, to go listen to them. Many of them broke down in tears. There were 4 officers that gave testimony. And, I heard one of the officers in one of his comments say that if there was a sniper that was out shooting people, that sniper had to have been hired by someone traditionally to go out and commit this, crime of shooting. So they said, isn't it only right that we conduct this investigation to get to the truth and find out who encouraged, who provoked this Capitol attack, and then hold them accountable for what took place? I heard also on this week, I'm going to call her name is Whoopi Goldberg, and she said that the Capitol officers were defending both Democrat and Republicans doing their job. It was not that they were only going to protect one party over the other. They protected everyone there, and, these guys genuinely spoke about being in fear of their life. And many times they said that, they were trying not to pull their firearms because they felt like that would make the matters worse. But if you remember on that day, the officers were so, Secret Service was so afraid that they actually shot a young lady when she attempted to come into the inner chamber. And, and, it's terrible that so many people were hurt in the line of duty. It was also said that the GOP can no longer call themselves the party, that supports the men in blue, because they attacked the men in blue, and they hurt these guys, man. They hurt these guys, and it's not a good thing, um, to say, okay, well, we're for the men in blue. We support police all over the country, and then turn around and attack them to the point where they still are in therapy and still seeking help. So I know this is not going to be a short topic. It's going to have to be, I just want to bring people awareness. Like we discussed last week, I want to point the finger at a topic and make people go do some homework for themselves. Don't just take my word for it or anybody here on the panel, but begin to research and understand. If you actually believe that this was a day of tourism in the Capitol, then you need to really go hear these guys. And many of the Republicans reply to this as just a political stunt. All the Democrats are just putting on a sideshow. Well, today they're talking about, putting subpoenas out for many of the Republicans to testify under oath to this committee so that they can tell what they knew and when they knew it. And I hope that they don't come up short, get derailed, get sidetracked, because I believe it's for those that are still running around thinking that this was a steal, that this election was stolen from number 45. I hope they really do get to the bottom of the nuts and bolts of this thing. So what does my brothers in broadcasting have to say about this?
Well, for starters, that was like 7 topics, all right? But anyway, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, that's right. It's a lot to digest, a lot to break down. I remember watching in real time on January 6th, the lady who came through that glass door area getting shot in real time. And you saw her fall back with her dead body, and everybody was in shock. But still, the fact that you've had these people who, and I hate to say it, was ultimate white privilege to do what they have done, to have no fear, to just be fearless and go out there with their mentalities to think that nothing's going to happen to them. Case in point, I don't think they should give press to anybody. Case in point, the guy Richard Barnett, this is the guy that broke through Nancy Pelosi's office area and put his foot on her desk in that area. NBC did an interview with him. Now, as far as I know, look, we all know how the media operates. Don't give them any limelight. Don't give them any press. They don't deserve it. He was just got out for serving a 3-month pretrial before his sentencing going to happen in the next couple of months. Don't give these people press. They've crossed the line. Now, what I'm concerned about, and what you just talked about, Dr. Ron, testimony of the officers, I hope that it does some good. And what I mean by that is, you look at, for example, there should be no type of citing in this. These are human lives that would never be the same ever again. Talked about before about how the so-called GOP supports the police, and look what they did. There should, and what are they going to call it? These Nancy Pelosi Republicans that are cited. It shouldn't be about party. It should be about what's right, not the conservative right, just right by doing what's right by human beings. But see, I hate to go on with it, but it's too much like right, because they do not want to side with what's truthful. I mean, these people do the right of Genghis Khan, for Christ's sake, but they don't care because their blessed agenda still has to be pushed. It's the damnedest of shame.
All right. I got 2 words for you. Leandro Andrade. Nobody knows who he is. But a while back, he stole 9 VHS tapes for his children. That was his crime. And for that crime, Mr. Andrade was sentenced to 25 years to life twice. 2 sentences. Part of that has to do with the 3 strikes rule, but that's what he did to get 25 years to life. Now, there's a lot of things that can be debated about the Capitol riot. Some people want to debate whether it was a riot or not. Clearly it was. I won't debate that. However, you can debate the severity of it in a lot of different ways, but there's one thing that we know, which is absolutely true. 5 people were hurt that day, or actually 5 people died that day. 1 police officer was beaten severely by, as you mentioned, the people that say they think Blue Lives Matter. All right. So 5 people murdered that day, or died, or killed, whichever way you want to do it. 5 people lost their lives that day. What else do we need to know to justify an investigation? Why is this being debated? Is it possible, just spitballing here, that the very people who perpetrated the crime want to prevent the investigation of the crime? Okay. I think it's possible. You know, it's just like when 9/11 happened. Actually, before 9/11, the towers were hit in 93. Bill Clinton was president for 5 weeks when that happened. And he rounded up the people that did that. But you know what he didn't do? Find a bunch of terrorists to testify on behalf of the other terrorists. And nobody asked the terrorists if it was okay to investigate the terrorism. And yet, that's exactly what's happening now. The terrorists are allowed to say, we don't want you to investigate what we did. That is beyond the pale in and of itself. But the fact that they go on television repeatedly and say, hey, Ron, what you're describing didn't happen. Mm-hmm. You're saying that some riot happened on January 6th. No, it was tourism. Mm-hmm. You're spreading misinformation. Mm-hmm. You know, thank goodness for freedom of speech, but man, it's a double-edged sword sometimes. And the very people who are the criminals in this case are the ones saying, nah, let's not investigate. And look at what Nancy Pelosi has to do, all the extra effort that has to be put in just to convene a committee for this thing. It's absolutely disgusting.
I totally agree to the man from New Jersey.
I'm not from New Jersey. I live in New Jersey.
There you go. That's straight. That's where you at now. That's where you at now. New Jersey. Yeah. 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 No, it's you know, you're right. You know, when you get to ask the criminals, you know, is it okay for us to look into your criminal activity? Well, of course they're gonna say no. Oh no, we don't need to do this, you know. Yeah. But you know, one of the things that struck me about the opening statements of these officers was the pain and the passion that they spoke about. Yeah, that's what they said.
Combat. They were in a look, man. This is an area that I know extremely well for a variety of reasons that I will not get into right now. But
yeah, you live in New York.
The average person does not understand what combat does to the psyche.
Yeah.
Okay. It you know, back in World War I, it was very clear. George Carlin pointed out the ambiguity of language, right? But back in World War I, when soldiers came back, their condition was called shell shock. And it was very clear what that meant. Okay. Now it's called post-traumatic stress disorder. And it's not clear what it means. Just like the words pedophile and pedophilia. No, let's strip away those words and call it child rape and child rapist so that it's clear what it is. This was a combat situation where people were attacked, and it was high stress. People feared for their lives. And when you are an officer of the law, you have to run toward the problem while other people are running away from the problem. If you don't respect anything about police, respect that. And it's a stressful thing. And it doesn't go away. That thing lingers with you virtually forever unless you do a lot of work to deal with that stuff. So the people that were killed, in a way, from a certain perspective, got off easy because their troubles are over. The people that survived, they have to deal with this trauma for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, that's going to be a problem. They're going to have nightmares about this for a very long time. You know, during the time that they were involved in it, one of the comments that Officer Dunn said later that afternoon, after the rioters had cleared, Dunn said he became emotional sitting on a bench with a fellow black officer. He yelled, "How the you know, explicitive can something like this happen? Is this America?" He began sobbing, and the officer came over to console him because it was just that traumatic, just what you just said. Mm-hmm. You know, it is impossible to ever think that this is not going to be a problem for him. Right. You know?
Right. And let me just add something very quickly. It is very American what happened. Okay. America's history is covered in war. Covered. You know, we know about the most recent ones. People tend to talk about it from like World War I on forward. But the fact is that there's been over 120 wars that America's participated in all around the world, and dozens of them right in America. So this, you know, violence is the way of this land. And it's an unfortunate thing, but that is the reality.
Can I wrap now?
Go ahead on, my brother.
Oh, hey, amen. You guys are deep. I'm glad you all did all those points the way you did the points. You got no argument from me. The one thing that I do see positive in this is that this is now going to be framed for history. It's going to be framed because the one thing that's really hard about us being in it while it's going on at the same time, it's like you're powerless. We're powerless. And so I'm glad stuff will be put on record so the next generations following us can somehow hopefully figure this thing out, because it's a mess. I mean, it's a mess. It's a mess. And then it seems where you would think that a balance or equity or equality would be coming forward, it's like going backwards, man. It's just like the supremacy flag is just waving just straight up. You can do whatever you want to do when you get ready, no matter what the consequences are. But let somebody else try to do that. Let that had been brothers that was doing an insurrection. So you know that would never happen because this country has a history of taking out some of our leaders at the age of 21 and 22 years old, and that's just because they were charismatic. That's because they can lead people to do things, and probably some things that would be positive. But here you have a violent act that the entire world seen. And then you want to have people putting badges of honor on it. And then for a news network to spin on it, man, I'm like, this is like comedy, man. You can't get nothing no funnier than this. I'm looking at these people trying to bust through these doors, and then they're gonna tell me that's a tourist visit.
No.
Yeah. I mean, I've actually seen this. Woman trying to climb through the window. These people are taking whatever they got in their hands to tear these doors down, and then you're going to tell me that that's a tourist visit. Yeah, and then every pundit on your station or on that network is going to co-sign. Oh man, they were trying to tour the Capitol. And then to have that at the same time. And now my ears is listening to this. And I'm hearing one of these people in this room saying, where in the F is Pelosi? Where, these cats were actually going after these people. And you're going to tell me that that's a tourist visit. So I got to the point, right, where I'm just, that just lets me know now that the rest of us need to become stronger voting blocks to get rid of that. Because that's absolute mayhem. That's absolute insanity. This country is not majority rule, it's majority fools. You understand? Yeah. You got the minority making a fool and a mockery of this democracy. And everybody's co-signing. The advertisers love it. Because, man, they got more people watching TV looking at more tomfoolery than anything. And all these products, all these big national Geico, Domino's Pizza, all these great places, they are attaching this to these networks that's putting out this buffoonery. I mean, just straight up lies. And then we wonder what's wrong. And we're discussing what's wrong.
Yeah. And there's a theme through the comments so far. Ron mentioned it, I mentioned it, you mentioned it. It's the fact that the very people who are responsible, whose titles are lawmaker, right? The lawmakers are the ones bastardizing the law. You know, there's a Latin phrase that I'll read that I think is appropriate. Quis custodiet ipsos custodes. And it means who watches the watchers. You know, what do you do when the lawmakers are breaking the law?
There's another one we say, there's another one I've heard, absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yes.
All the time. But then you got to factor in what 45 did during his watch. He put a hit on all the politicians pretty much and a hit on his own vice president, Mike Pence.
Yeah. They were screaming to hang Pence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. We can't have revisionist history on this thing.
No.
And that's what they're doing. It's like, don't believe your lying eyes. If you saw what you saw and heard what you heard and everybody else co-signs on what that was, that's fine. What happens is it's bullshit what the Republicans are doing to dismiss what had happened. It's like it's never happened. It's like you're waking up from a dream. It was not a dream. January 6th was a goddamn reality. It also showed you again, as Professor Reggie Miles talked about, Professor, if there were black and brown people out there, shots to the dome.
Man, they'd have been shut down with the quickness.
When they thought BLM was going to show up somewhere, the riot police were out standing in front of the Lincoln Monument, and nobody was even there.
Man, these cats got a chance to do what they do, and just to set up the confusion, just so we can be wasting time. And I'm not saying this to come against any of the officers that went through all that stuff, but let's get back to the voting rights law. Let's get back to that. Let's hurry up and listen. Ain't no need of us arguing over what we saw. Say what you want. But history is going to bear out from them people that was there what was going on. That's going to bear out. And so you can say whatever you want, and you can have your mouthpiece or your propaganda machine say whatever you want. Get through all of that. Talk to me about this John Lewis voting rights law. Talk to me about that. I don't want to hear about nothing else, because, y'all straighten that out. Work it out. Find out. It's good that they're trying to find out the truth and where this thing began at. Now, I'm for that. Now, let's get to beginning on this voting rights law. Let's get to beginning on that. Because this thing that they doing with this, it's just another distraction, because there ain't nobody talking about this John Lewis thing. Let's put that back on the table. I mean, right now, y'all gonna have to multitask. That's what you're being paid for anyway. So let's go on and do your job. And then this thing on this infrastructure, y'all know y'all got to put some money out. Y'all know it's a FDR moment. There's been no money sent down to us for decades. And Mr. Biden said, in a century. So let's get some money down to the people that need it. Because you all, the rich folk, the wealthy, man, y'all, look, Warren Buffett, he going out of here, done made over, 190 billion? So let's get some more stuff. Some important things, like that voting rights for all people in America. And then we can solve some of that craziness from some of them individuals that are in these offices. Because,
Professor, we're addressing important things. 2 billionaires got shot into space last week.
Oh, who was them cats, man? Were they going to look for real estate on the moon?
Bezos was investigating a delivery route for Amazon.
Look, they didn't even get to the moon.
They just were in space for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, they just barely broke the atmosphere. I think
they did Alan Shepard.
Look, I think the
basically.
Concorde,
but on purpose,
went higher in space than they did. Remember the Concorde?
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. So,
man. Yeah.
So the reality is, even though this is going on and we all praying for that truth and justice comes through, man, get to the Voting Rights Act, man. Let's get to that. Because that capital insurrection thing, man, we all saw it. Anybody that's alive, we all saw it. I don't know why it takes so long that we got to prove that what we saw was what we saw.
Well, let me encourage you just a little bit, Professor.
Yes, sir.
The stunts of the Democrats from the state of Texas has yielded that conversation day after day after day, because they have not returned back to Texas yet. And the conversation is, we need the language of the John Lewis, the original language of the John Lewis voting right law to come full force and to be voted on so that we can return back to Texas, knowing that they will not be able to hinder, hamper, or, impede any type of voter suppression in the state of Texas. So they have been talking about that, for the last couple of days. These guys are still camped out in DC, campaigning and trying to bring attention to that voting rights law. Mm-hmm. So just to encourage you that much more, it's still on the table. It ain't gone nowhere. They're still talking about it. They're still trying to make it, very much so.
Man, but and all things are important now, but every time something comes down the pipe for us, man, and maybe I'm just paranoid, but it seemed like if we on the top docket, then here comes something to push us down another row. Then here comes something else to push us down another row. And then whatever progress we made when we were at the top to get to the top, it seemed like we never get back to the top again when it comes for us having an equal stay or play at the table. I mean, it just seems like this is like an over and over and over. Like when a record gets, when a record gets like, it gets stuck in the groove, man. But somebody got to take and put a quarter on that needle so it can pass on through.
All right, but here's the thing, Professor. When a record skips, that's a defect. There's no defect in the American system. This is the way the system is meant to be.
Well, I got that too. But I want to push through that because the most powerful entity in the American political system is a voting bloc. There was a fool who created a voting bloc. He created a voting bloc when he said that the president that was elected was not an American. That galvanized the people to have the same mind. Okay, we got to get that same type of mind. Maybe not that mindset, but we have to come to that. We got to have a Messiah moment. And I think there's no greater Messiah moment than the John Lewis voting rights law. That's the come to Jesus moment, or whatever God you want to come to. That's what we need to have. Everybody needs to go to pointing in that direction, because that way, when everybody can come to the table the way they want to, then them cats would have to pander to us the right way. They would have to come to us and bring something to the table. They ain't got to bring nothing to the table. Now that's what pisses me off, man. Every time we get to these elections, every time we go through it, unless it was a Messiah, now we're going to go out blindly and we're not looking for nothing in return. But we got to get smart with our political power now. Dude, what are you bringing to the table? Don't get in there and do all the deals for yourself, because all them cats that's in them political offices, man, they rich. When they get out, they got paper. They got connections. They got everything. And we still arguing over what little chips and crumbs. Oh, you know that. What's that boy? What was that boy, Ronnie Reagan? What he called it? Trickle down. We still getting stuff that's just trickled down to us. So we got to get this voting block mentality. Somebody with that leadership that's strong enough to be a messiah, that's going to have to reemerge for us. So we can go and then listen. You can't do anything when your hands and your fingers is like this. You got to be like this. We got to clench up and become a fist, 2 fists. We got to have 2 fists of power so we can hit through stuff, because these cats gonna keep throwing something in the game. Like last week, what was it they threw in the game at us? What was it? What was it? Critical race theory. And then next week it's gonna be something else, and then the week after that it's gonna be something else. And steady, what we want, our agenda, what we need is gonna get pushed further back. And don't y'all feel that? I feel that every time some come up, the black people, we always get further to the back of the line.
That's the way the system is set up. That's
well,
what it is.
Yeah, well, we got to, we got to do like the boy Flavor Flav said, fight the power, fight the power.
Well, you mentioned about the whole fist thing. That reminds me, of course, going back to Do the Right Thing with Radio Raheem, love and hate type of thing. And you go back to, we mentioned about Representative John Lewis. A lot of people, unfortunately, forgot the man.
Right.
So you have to go in, for that perspective, let's do a re-education about Representative John Lewis. Let's get back to good trouble. Let's re-educate the people when it comes to voting rights and things of that nature. Hell, do a biopic of John Lewis. That would help, because everybody goes to media when it comes to television and movies and limited series on digital platforming and things like that. Bring that back up. You just might be surprised how people will learn more by watching a movie, like Dr. Ron said earlier in the conversation. Don't take our word for it. Go investigate for yourself. You don't know who John Lewis is or forgot about it? Please go and read about that. Read about what he did. And again, you have a movie coming out. If that was going to be the case, I don't know. I don't think there is. But if you were to go with that, you will go in the direction of education, because people do like to see that unfold, and it will bring them some enlightenment when it comes to voting rights, when it comes to John Lewis and other people who sacrificed their lives all the way for us just to have the conversation right now.
Man,
why would education suddenly start in America now?
You got, first of all, you got to start somewhere.
No, but it's just, I hear what you're saying, and of course you're right, but it's again, this is the system. And the system is maintained by the people who benefit most from the system. That's why critical race theory is something that even though it's 50 years old and started by a black man, it's something that people are questioning now suddenly as like, oh, what is this thing? And it is something that moves the needle in a positive direction for people of color. And look at the backlash that's gotten. Somehow it emerged again, and the people in power are like, hey, we can't teach critical race theory. Why? Because you don't want the oppressed knowing the truth.
Exactly.
Well, and I agree, and I dig with what you're saying, and I'm with that 100%. But sometimes the academicians, man, they get the call too. They get the call, and they have to say stuff because there's, you're smart, and you gotta you've done your due diligence, you got your academic credentials and all this kind of stuff. You're ready and set. Then they call and they say, well, look, we need you to say this. And the brother got to come out and say that.
And sometimes they're lied to. Like Colin Powell was lied to in 2001. And he got up there because he was a well-respected general, a leader, just a man in general. And, he repeated the lies that he was told. So it's not always getting the call. Sometimes it's just being given the wrong information so that if you're a trusted face, people are going to go along with what you're saying.
Well, like I say, I got that too, but I'm always stay on the call. I asked John Lewis, how could he be? I interviewed John Lewis. I had time. That man gave me 3 hours of his time, me and a group of some colleagues. And I asked John Lewis, I said, man, how can you be this way after what they did to you? And I'm going to actually play to you what he said.
It is better. It is better to love than to hate. I know in American life, and people don't like to talk about love. But love is very powerful. It says something about your heart, about your soul, your spirit, the very essence of the person. So before any sit-in, before the Freedom Ride, before the march from Selma to Montgomery, before the march on Washington, we studied, we prepared ourselves. We were taught to love. And the concept of love is in keeping with the teaching of the great teacher. Is in keeping with the great religions of the world. We studied Gandhi, what he attempted to do in South Africa, what he accomplished in India. We studied Thoreau and civil disobedience. We studied what Martin Luther King Jr. was all about in Montgomery during the bus boycott. And Dr. King would say from time to time, just love everybody. Just love the hell out of everybody. If people are evil, if they're hellish, just love it out of them. So many of us grew to accept the way of love, the way of peace, the way of nonviolence, as a way of life, as a way of living. So you beat me. Yes, I was beaten during the Freedom Ride, left bloody and unconscious at the Greyhound bus station in Montgomery, had a concussion at the bridge in Selma, arrested and thrown in jail more than 40 times. But nothing was going to make me dislike someone or hate someone or become bitter or become hostile. We used to sing a little song, keep your eyes on the prize. You have to keep that sense of hope, that sense of faith, that sense in believing in the worth and dignity of every human being. If we're going to create a beloved community, a community at peace with itself, then the means must be one of love. And no, you may throw me in jail, you may beat me, leave me bloody, but I'm not going to hate you. I'm not going to dislike you. The movement was about being reconciled, creating that sense of community, that sense of one family, one house. Because in the final analysis, we're one family, and we all live in the same house, the world house.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's beautiful.
No, thank you.
Yeah,
Man, so I'm sitting up there after he got through. I had to hug him because I was about to cry. I was crying
Right.
then. Yeah.
When did you, Professor? When did you interview Representative Lewis?
Let me see. I think that was either in 08 or 09. I have to check it out by myself. My colleague, Dr. Missouri, and associate professor, Dr. Cynthia Morton. We all got the invite to come down there. We just talked to him, man. That was like the bossest thing I had ever went through. He fed us. He did everything. I got a picture of him to when we was on the Capitol in his office and all that kind of stuff. But he cleared his docket, and I got the little interview. I might play it one day, because it was a part of a doc that I was doing, But it's just
amazing,
there.
man.
Well,
the man is gone, but the legend lives on.
Man, first of all, thank you for sharing that, because you got history right there. That is fantastic history. The man is that Bloody Sunday. I mentioned before about being in jail, 40 times? I mean, my God. And he's the antithesis of what Dr. King was trying to preach. Now, I'll be the first to admit, it ain't easy to turn the other cheek. So that's why I thoroughly admire and respect people who can do that, because that paves the way for some sort of understanding. But just to hear that man's voice, man, is, again, just powerful history.
Man, just based on that alone, that's why I say the law got to come through. It's got to come through. I ain't talking about naming no naval vessel after him.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm talking about the law.
Well, let me give you some more words of encouragement. The fact that Stacey Abrams is not stopping. She was a student of his, and she had close relations with him to the point where she has picked up his mantle and is continuing to make sure it's not over. And she tells us it's not over, all the time. This is what we need to do next, A, B, C, and D. And she keeps the battle moving forward. So, just as words of encouragement, don't go to sleep. We still got a whole lot more work to do.
That is exactly.
Hey, man, I was lured on this show partly by someone dangling Stacey Abrams as a guest, and I'm still waiting for that. I'm in love with her, and so we need to get her on here so that I could shoot my shot.
Okay. Yeah, me and Yaddah will be fighting over that time.
That's okay. That's okay. As long as you're in Chicago and I'm in New Jersey, we're safe.
Man, because I love me some Stacey Abrams, man. The Quiet Storm.
Yeah.
Yeah. The storm, nobody. I mean, she had came so that this last person that was elected, that was in office, man, he called her out by name,
Yep. And the governor and the governor of Georgia still says, we ain't scared of you, Stacey Abrams. When you got to say it as much,
so that means he's scared.
Right. As much when you say it that much, that means you really scared.
Yeah, he's shaking in his boots. He's shaking in his boots.
It's just like my counterpart Yaddah from the film said, "You will be."
All right.
With that being said, Chocolate Yaddah, the floor is yours, sir. Go right ahead.
All right. Again, I'm just going to touch on the subject of austerity. It is something
Wait a minute. What? I'm not that bright. So you got to tell me what this austerity is. Now, go ahead.
Well, it's a concept in politics of essentially forced poverty in order to build the country up, right? And that's how it's sold. But the fact is that when it started, and we're talking about way back after slaves were freed, it was a direct response to people of color entering the American government, because that was not a thing for a long time. And then after slaves were emancipated, slowly but surely they started to trickle into American politics. And without getting into all the details of how austerity plays out, I will say this one thing, that generational wealth in America is created by one thing and one thing only, and that is real estate. Okay? And when you look at all the laws, from the GI Bill to the FHA to all these different things, Fannie Mae, all these things that are about helping people get into homes, or houses, I should say, get into houses, they explicitly in the law wrote that people of color were excluded from these programs.
That's right.
There were loan programs where it said as part of the program that the neighborhood would only get funding so long as people of color were not allowed to buy in that neighborhood. So it's a deep subject, and it has a lot of facets to it. But again, part of the system in America, the system of oppression, is tied very, very closely with the system of greed in America. And when it comes to getting power in this system, the people that are trying to maintain their power have been very, very paranoid and made sure that people of color were not allowed to participate. So that's all I have for now. Maybe you guys can touch on that, but I know, Chris, you have a topic that we need to get into.
Well, it's like the classic damn if you do and damn if you don't when it comes to people of color. I mean, we recall white flight out of neighborhoods, for example. And then again, when you, because you can't live next door to somebody who's different from you because of your racist mentalities, you find a way to benefit from it. And so it kind of falls on the same track when you're talking about, Yaddah, when you talk about these type of setups, where again, it's not written for us. This country was never about for us anyway. So again, we fast forward from history, and it does explain a lot to where we are now, to the topic that Dr. Ron just mentioned, commentary from Professor, and now we talk about this. It all ties into the same damn thing.
Yeah, and that's why, I love the idea of FUBU, for us, by us.
Absolutely.
My son talks about this all the time. My son is very militant and very involved, and he's a reader. I mean, he and I talked about Fred Hampton, who the professor alluded to earlier. It's a tragic story. The story of minorities in America is a tragic story, especially people of color. Every minority got put through the ringer, but people of color had a system built around putting them through a ringer, and the system is still in place.
Yeah.
So when YT asks, "Why are you so mad?" I go, "Hey, how about you go fuck yourself? Why aren't I mad? My list of reasons to be mad are a lot longer than you think they are." Okay. And it's not ancient history. We're talking about stuff happening right as we speak.
Yeah.
Okay. The 13th Amendment is still in effect, folks. And the 13th Amendment makes slavery legal if you're a prisoner. Literally. Pull it up. Read it. It's there in the first 2 paragraphs.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And like you were saying, you used the example of real estate. The importance of acquiring real estate all through time was to be able to establish generational wealth. And by blocking us from acquiring real estate in certain communities, or any community for that matter, it hinders us from beginning to being able to establish generational wealth.
And by the way, just to support your point, the ratio of wealth between white Americans and people of color, for every $100 that a white American has, a person of color has 13. And it's not an accident. It's not laziness. It's not bad luck. This is purposeful. This is legislated.
Right.
I can dig it. I really can dig it. And, a lot of times I ask, and not to take anything away from your point, what if the roles were in reverse?
Oh, I hope to live long enough to find out.
No, that we ain't gonna see. We ain't gonna see that. But
I hope they get treated with as much respect as they treated us. To George Lopez.
Which is what they fear, right?
And
that's Black Planet, right?
Yeah, I mean that's the nightmare that they have to deal with. But sometimes I say, why? Because if we hang on to the notion that they're the alpha, that they're the beginning, then I could see a lot of this, but they're not the beginning. We are the beginning.
No, science has proven that.
Yeah, so so it's a lot of things. I'm cool, but it's like it's another movie line base that I'm trying to come up with, but that really saying, well, what are we gonna do about it? So just what are we gonna do about it? So I was thinking about that line, and what's that Eddie Murphy flick with Grace Jones? I tell you, We'll tell you off there, okay? But when are we going to get down and come to the table and stand up for our own crown?
Yeah, when are we gonna? Right?
Yeah, you got it.
Right at the dinner table, right? Yeah,
so
at the restaurant.
Yeah, right. So it's. I mean, I really want to complain about them all the time. I really do, but complaining about them keeps them in power. Complaining about them actually, that actually keeps them there. And I mean, man, first of all, are we gonna start loving one another?
Stacey Abrams on here, and we'll see.
Yeah, you, my man. I mean, but are we gonna start? Are we gonna start? Having y'all don't.
I'll get a lot of love on her.
Yeah, I mean, but are we going to focus on the things that we need, like in our own communities, to make our own communities better? Because we've got hella problems in our own community. They saying now, on the Republican notes is saying now, well, since Joe Biden is in office, they're going crazy in the neighborhood. So look at it, they're killing it. But we've always been killing each other.
But hold on, let's address that for a second, because this is a line of thinking that frustrates me, because it's spoken about as if it's in a vacuum. First of all, everybody kills each other. You kill the people you're around. Just look at, if you read all of the murder statistics, the FBI has them, the Department of Justice has them. It's people kill who's around. There is no such thing as black on black crime. There's just person on person crime. And the statistical likelihood when you're going to get murdered is that you're going to get murdered by someone you know, and probably in your place where you live. That's where murders happen the most. Okay. So this idea of black on black crime is not a thing. People harm the people they're around because they clash. And especially when they're frustrated, when they're economically suppressed, when their rights are taken away, they walk around bald fists and angry. And look, I don't like it. I don't want it to happen, but let's not talk about this as if there's no causality whatsoever. The system is literally made to have this happen.
I'm not saying that at all. I'm gonna refer to Willie Hutch in his song in the Mac, "When Our Brothers Gonna Work It Out." And the only way we can work it out is what is the way through John Lewis said, we got to do some loving, man. And I ain't talking about, I'm talking about with each other. For whatever conditions that we went through with each other, we got to stand with each other in love for whatever it is we went through. So we got to get to that point. But, because brothers, oh man, he didn't do as much as that to me than you. So we'll start like putting a hierarchy on who got effed the worst. We'll start putting a hierarchy. We'll start putting a hierarchy on that, on how he has treated us and which level. Anything that he can put out or YT can put out to keep us from coming together, he's going to do that, because he knows that once we come together, that's the end of him. And so we should be pressing towards that mark, not to end him, but to come together with ourselves. So how we going to do that?
Agenda, our own agenda.
Well, you're gonna have to rewire human psychology, because that's just not how humans operate. But it's a nice goal.
Yeah, well, we got to put some on the table, because listen, if Billy Preston said nothing from nothing leaves nothing, so we ain't went nowhere. A few of us get a chance to do that, but in other words, the few of us that make it, they go into direct call status. When you get up there, all right, then when you want to try to say something, when you think you want to be empowered to do something for your people, that's when you're going to get the call. And you're going to have to stand down. If that not be true, we got a lot of folk that's up there already that can take care of us, that can start to do something somewhere to where is we can start seeding our own futures. But man, you better not be. The only time that happened, right, is when Alcindor, Ali, Jim Brown. Y'all remember that? Now we see those things under the table now with LeBron there, but it's, you know, it's for stuff that they say that we need to do. You know, like when the Black Lives Matter and then the Colin and what's his name, Colin Kaepernick, all that stuff, you know, and I can't breathe, all that stuff. But I'm talking about putting banks. I'm talking about doing a Walgreens, call it Black Greens. I'm talking about Black Marts. You know, and just like what you're saying, I'm talking about all these FUBUisms going up. But they don't, they have to be in the revenue stream in our country because we have been paying for them, you know, for them to survive. You know, Black Americans spend more money than the nation of Canada. And they were doing that in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, absolutely. You know, if it's just 10% of that coming back to us, that's a start. But the only people that put stuff back into the community is the drug dealers.
Jeez.
Hey man, strippers got to live too.
What you say, sad but true.
Strippers in a while, but thank you, Francisco. You know, once again, we have to have a separate network. We have street news now. Stripper news now is coming to a video digital platform near you.
Hey, well, how much is it going to be subscription?
There you go. Hey,
we'll put that on Patreon. I'll gladly host that.
Right, I know, right?
Look. Let me throw this out here. I love the fact that Karen, all the way over in Australia, is listening to what we're talking about, and she has empowered herself to go look up the 13th Amendment to understand the conversation about the 13th Amendment. So if this young lady all the way over in Australia can take the time out to educate herself, we encourage everybody else to do the same thing. Okay. She made a comment about that, and I like that. Thank you, Karen.
Let's see here.
I love what Gus been saying, boy.
Mm-hmm.
Gus been dropping some gems, you know. And I like this one, Gus said, politics is still doing who's on first. That remind me of that In Living Color base.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Jews on first.
Oh, help. But, you know, again.
Charlie is on second.
There goes Karen. She says, pleasure. Well, you know, and the very valid point that Dr. Ron mentioned about educating people and, you know, using, you know, Karen as an example. You just never know when you get a chance to impart wisdom or make them think or have them have an aha moment and go research for themselves. So it makes sense. And about quoting lyrics, go back to the Beatles. Come together.
Oh, man, don't you say that,
over
man.
Me.
You gonna make me play that song, man. You better leave me alone, bass.
I'm telling you, Doc.
You know, that's one of my favorites of all time. Of all time.
Oh man, let me get this last topic for everybody out here. So, President Biden had a press conference today at the White House, referring to vaccines. One of the main things he says, one of the takeaways was, this is not about red states or blue states. It's about life and death. That was a direct quote from the president. Also goes on to announce that the incentives to get people vaccinated and updated in an effort for vaccines to be given to more Americans. Right now, we're looking at him saying that every school should be open, every teacher, every student should be vaccinated. Also, the how and when, as requires the COVID-19 vaccine for U.S. troops. He also asked the Pentagon about this to explore that. So when I got away from the press conference that he had earlier, is to get people more encouraged to go out and get vaccinated. And it's not about this whole red state, blue state stuff. Again, that is the one word or one rule of magic you learn is create a plausible diversion, as we talked about earlier in our conversation. The plausible diversion is not to put the onus on what's going on, is to have you look over to the left when the right is doing the most, or vice versa. In the country right now, before we hit the microphone, for all of us here, vaccinated in the country for people, the source given from the CDC right now, 49.4%. And it's growing, and that's a good thing. Here's the deal. You don't have to like it, but still you want to do it for the sake of this country. I know people are still fighting it, and that's your individual right. But the whole thing about guidelines and putting the mask on, and as we say here, as Lise would say, don't do 6 feet, do 12 feet, and wash your ass. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with wanting what's best for the country. All right, damn it. Take the country out the equation. Do it for your damn family. Do it for yourself. Do it for your loved ones. Do it for them. Pretty much the CDC was saying before all this happened, we should get out of this by roughly 2023 is the realistic goal. And I know people got out, and don't get me started on people getting out now. I think it's a quick money grab. Look how much money people lost last year due to COVID. So now they come back out. Here in Chicago, there's a Lollapalooza crap going on tomorrow. There's going to be a petri dish of all these people coming together right now over them and have a good time over the weekend. But still is the fact that you're putting yourself in harm's way by all this mass gathering, whether it's in Illinois, whether it's in Florida, whether it's somewhere else. But again, take it upon yourself to mask. Hell, double mask. And also, going along with this, don't put on a mask you have bad breath. You will knock yourself the hell out.
Yeah.
Make sure you have mouthwash, Altoids, gum, because you put that damn mask on with a bad breath, you pass. You don't have to worry about COVID passing out. You'll pass out because you stank breath. And that's just another public service announcement, a PSA. But in all seriousness, because of the sake of our families, because of the sake of our children, just do it. It's not an argument. Just do it, and you might get some results, and that's what we're all going for.
Well, let's quote another film. In The Matrix, when Morpheus was captured, he was being interrogated by the lead Smith. And he said, "I've been trying to classify your species." And he basically said that humans are like no other mammals, but they're like viruses. And he said that because viruses destroy the host, right? Most mammals have the sense of self-preservation, even mammals that operate almost entirely on instinct. But even the higher primates, like our cousins, the bonobos and the silverback gorillas, which we share 98.75% DNA with.
How much was that? 90 what?
98.75.
Okay.
And so why aren't humans as smart? Why don't humans have a sense of self-preservation that every living being is born with? Right. Why is it necessary to tell adults, hey man, protect yourself and help protect other people? Why is that a thing? And it's always been a thing. They went through this in 1918 as well. Okay. I think, frankly, that Americans are mostly just giant toddlers pretending to be adults. And I think that they are shockingly stupid. I drive for ride shares, and I do wear 2 masks, by the way, because, the car is small quarters, and I don't know these filthy animals getting in my car.
That's right.
I'm happy to make money driving them around, but I'm not taking a chance. I keep my door locked now. This is a new thing that I'm doing. I keep my door locked so that if someone walks up without a mask, I give them a shot. I point to my mask and basically saying, you got to mask up. And now I even text them ahead of time. Friendly reminder, masks are still required, right? And if they walk up to my car without a mask and they say, I don't have one, I'm out. Fuck them. If you're too stupid to protect yourself, I know you're too stupid to protect me.
Thank you.
Right? And I just and by the way, Reggie, I also have a condom on right now just in case. But, but for real, man, it's amazing to me that America addresses the problem by 50% and then behaves as if the problem's 100% solved.
Right.
And I knew it was coming back last year when this all started. I said, I know based on history that I'm going to be wearing this mask for 2 or 3 years minimum, because Americans are so fucking stupid. And there's no excuse for any of this.
No,
the information is there. I like to say all the time, I'm a talking monkey and I figured it out. Okay. Go to the CDC website, go to the WHO website, listen to anything Fauci says and dismiss everything else. I may not be a genius, but I'm smart enough to do that. I don't get it, man, but good luck, America.
Yeah, well, hey, man, like I said, I always quote Scooby-Doo, man, Rasta Ruck. Rasta Ruck, because what we're dealing with, as I totally agree, you're dealing with ignorance. Why wouldn't you want to do?
But it's not. It's not ignorance, though. Ignorance is not knowing. Nobody can claim not to know. Okay, right, this is willful denial. This is willful stupidity. These are people saying, yeah, oh, maybe there's a pandemic going on, but I don't care. I have a right not to wear a mask. Yeah, you have a right to shoot yourself in the head too. And I would encourage you to do that so that you stop bothering everybody else.
And look at Dr. Fauci. He's getting death threats. You know what I'm saying? This type of
telling people to take care of themselves and their family and their friends. Like,
right. I mean,
what a world.
Yeah. It's amazing. It is really fucking amazing. But I tell you, the people who do wear double masks, the people who do practice, 12 feet apart and wash their ass and everything else, God bless you. God bless you, because you're doing what's right. You're trying to save the nation. You're trying to save the world.
I'm actually not. I'm trying to save myself and my loved ones, but I know that my behavior has a positive effect on the world. And again, if you don't have this, and look, I bring this up all the time, and I'll end with this.
Sure.
If you want to know a lot of what you need to know about America and Americans, I invite you to go back to 2012 to the Sandy Hook massacre, when 20 children ages 6 and 7 were murdered. And since Karen's listening, she'll appreciate this. In 1996, Australia had the Port Arthur, I think it's called Port Arthur massacre. And the government went, you know what, no more guns. And they actually recalled 600,000 guns. And their gun violence went down to pretty much zero. Okay? 20 children ages 6 and 7 were murdered, and Americans by 50% were basically going, hey, Second Amendment. So what else do you need to know about this place? Does it surprise you that people are too fucking stupid to put on masks to protect themselves and protect their neighbors? I'm not.
I got something for you. Christo says, why you wear a mask and the air goes into your mask from the sides anyway?
Oh God. There's a genius.
Well, I know Christos. He's a good guy. He's a very good guy. The first time I ever seen him pop up here. So thank you, Christos, for popping up.
I just pointed that out because, and this is nothing against Christos or nothing that. But this is like in, what you're saying, yo, to everybody. everybody's got their theories and their things on this whatever.
Their theories. What? That's not a theory. That's someone's imagination. Okay, you have experts telling you what you need to know, and just because someone has a mouth or has fingers that can type out something doesn't mean that their opinion is as valid as someone who's been the lead immunologist for the last 50 fucking years.
That's all right, but some people don't want to listen to him because some other cat told them that he's a liar.
And that's why Americans are dumb.
That, I mean, and all that's cool, but like I say, we talked about it last week. It's media literacy that we got to put back on the table.
They don't have literacy with anything else. Why would they have media literacy?
I mean, but we got to put it on. We got to put it on the table, man.
Agreed. Agreed. Let's make Americans smart again. That's great.
Wait a minute. Now you started the show off.
Smart. That's what I'm saying.
You started off the show saying that you started off the show saying that folks don't think January 6th happened.
Yeah.
I mean, but this is the same thing. Ain't nothing different.
I agree. They're both examples of how stupid Americans are. I agree.
Well, now listen. Now I'm an American, but I'm a cool American. So you need to say.
I'm talking about generally, in general, and you can look at this from a social point of view. You can look at it from a behavioral point of view. You can look at it from an IQ point of view. You can look at it from test scores. All of those things indicate that Americans are dumb as fuck. In general, that doesn't mean that there are not individuals who are intelligent. Of course there are. But in general, it's a dumb fucking place.
Well, this is the only country on the planet. Well, not the only one, but we vote against our own political self-interest consistently. Consistently. That's because we're subjects of, to and of propaganda. And so, and as Malcolm X said, the media is the most powerful entity on earth because it has the power to make the innocent guilty and the guilty innocent. It controls the minds of the masses. And so we need to have, if we're 1/3 of the people, if we're 1/3 of the people in this country, and I'm not going to talk about, other places, but if we're 1/3, we need to have 1/3 of the networks, period. Just so we can talk to ourselves. And then maybe we can get some international relations with Africa so we can understand how we can do ourselves together by people of color. But that ain't going to happen. Because if they can't find a way that they can make money in it, since money is their chief value thing, they're not going to let that happen. They're not going to let it happen. So what are we going, let's go back to the Grace Jones in the movie. When are we, when are we going to get on? Right. Yeah, what are we going to do about it?
Exactly. Let me say this and we'll close out and go around the table for final thoughts. The reason why I wear a mask or double mask, I do it for my grandson, Emery. That's who I do it for. So that way, when he's coming up, we won't have to see this again, hopefully. So that way, when he go out, we don't have to worry about doing the mask thing and the 6 and 12 feet apart. I do it for him. That's why I do it. So everybody else will do it for their own individual things. And this is my grandson that lives out in Phoenix, who I've not physically got a chance to see yet, from the standpoint of being in person. But when that day comes, it's going to be great. Why? Because as a nation, we're trying to move forward and eradicate this whole thing of COVID-19 coronavirus. All right, so once again, we're going to close out. Dr. Ron, final thoughts on your end, sir?
Well, I think the wisdom of what we should do for ourselves should prevail. And I'm going to say it like that because it's an individual gut check. Just like you just got through saying about why you're protecting yourself so that you'll have the joy and the pleasure of being able to spend time with your grandson. And I can relate to that because I do the same thing. My grandson is 1 year and a month old. And because of the corona situation, we have not had an opportunity to celebrate one another on this side of life because of the corona alarms and alerts that's taking place. So I thoroughly understand. I have literally hidden myself in a bunker 6 feet underground for the last year and a half, protecting myself from any harm, and not just corona, but other evils that may dwell that's trying to seek to destroy me. So I try to safeguard myself as much as possible. So I totally agree. Whatever is important to yourself, make it your priority to be able to move forward through this thing. I want to get through the other side of it so I can look back and say, hey, I made it. I'm still here. That's my testimony. I'm sticking to it.
All right. The Yaddah of chocolate. What's your final word, sir?
Whatever you vividly imagine, ardently desire, sincerely believe, and enthusiastically act upon must inevitably come to pass.
Nice, nice. And the keeper of Funk Intellici, Professor Reggie Miles, go right ahead. No, not again.
That's how we started.
That's how we're going to end it, right?
Hootie!
Oh man, it's interesting when you start a show with Pootie Tang and end with Pootie Tang.
There you go.
You gotta come full circle.
I think we need to do that every week.
I know, right?
Capuchao.
Oh, okay. Here we go. All right. So again,
down on the running car.
I know, right? That should be the opening and closing, right? I go along with that. That's cool, dude. All right.
Hey guys. We've been called cool cats. Y'all see that in the comments? Cool cats.
No, yeah, Karen. Thank you. Nice.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Man, just love yourself. Love yourself. Love yourself. Yeah. Take care of you first. In order for you to be able to do anything for anyone else, you must make sure that what you have inside of you is fixed. Fix yourself by any means necessary. And whenever you do what you do it in love. We cannot change the world situation until we change the inner situation within ourselves. I yield the rest of my time.
Right on. Nice.
And we're going to yield the rest of our time out of here. Again, as always, thank you so much, gentlemen. And also thank everybody in the comment section for commenting. Always a beautiful time to get your mind out and be a part of this. Always fantastic. This is Street News Now, SNN, Five Guys and You. Catch us every Thursday evening at 9 p.m. Eastern. And that's 8 p.m. Central and 6 p.m. on the West Coast. Make sure you subscribe, like, and share when you go to YouTube and type in SNN Street News Now. Also, make sure you check us out on Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. We're all over the place. For Dr.Ron Ford, for the Francisco Chocolate Yaddah, and of course, Professor Reggie Miles, I'm Chris Bass, and also for our fearless leader, Lee Michaels, be peaceful. Take care. We'll see you soon.